Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining Claris Community Live. It's my pleasure today to welcome Claus Lavendt from Datamatics in Denmark. And he's going to share all things Engage2Go. And I think Angie just dropped the link to download Engage2Go into the chat. So if you want to follow along or explore, explore the app after today's episode, please do so. And we've also just started the poll. We have two questions. One is, have you developed and deployed a mobile app with FileMaker Go in your development past history? And the second will help Claus figure out which features to spend the most time on. So we've got 3 features of Engage2Go that he can explore, and we will do them in the rank order of the poll. So to get started, Claus, why don't you introduce yourself, and then let's talk a little bit about your approach to building mobile apps.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Claus Lavendt. I'm a developer from Denmark. I run a company called Datamatics. I've been around in the FileMaker business for 31 years now. So I'm kind of a newbie. And today the plan is to talk about the Engage2Go app. So I hope that's why you're here. So yeah, maybe we should just get started. I'm gonna share my screen here. I have prepared a couple of slides because I would like to briefly talk about some considerations and so on. But let's build some engaging mobile apps, right? That's kind of the topic here. And we are going to dive into 3 of the areas of the Engage2Go. Otherwise, I would have to bench you for the rest of the day or evening if it's that for you. So to start off, I would like to just touch on the purpose. And then I'm going to go into these 3 areas: the in-app update and data update, and the interactive maps, and then localization method that you can use in your own apps. And basically the app, if you haven't already discovered, it's completely open, and I've spent a lot of time trying to put in a lot of comments and make the code easy to read and understand so that you can just grab it and use it in your own projects. So let me talk a little bit about the purpose, and why do I believe that purpose is important to talk about. Over the years, I've seen so many jumping in and say, hey, let's do this. Why? Just because we can. But just because we can doesn't mean that we should. So that's one of the things that is one of my main priorities, is that we need to make sure that we have defined what is the purpose and is it bringing any value. So what I like to do is to put up the purpose on the board. And of course, a purpose is not normally a single purpose. There are typically, you can outline at least one primary purpose and then a secondary. And when you have defined these purposes, then you also have a worksheet of where to put your energy and the focus, so you don't divert into different directions just because you get caught up in all the possibilities that we have in FileMaker. It's such a great platform, all of you know that, and it's so easy to get lost in all the possibilities we have. So the purpose of the Engage2Go is, first and foremost, it needs to be a tool to navigate sessions before the conference and during, so that you know which sessions do you want to attend to, which are interesting, which one do you want to catch on the recordings, and so on. And it should also be a tool where you could create your own schedule for the conference, which also includes an ability to schedule custom meetings and events that is not on the official session list. So if you have a meeting with one of your peers or a customer or colleagues, then it should be possible for you to have everything in the same area. So that's also one of the purpose. And then a very important thing when you go to a conference of a certain size, and especially this size where we have 5 floors, how to navigate the conference space. I want to go to this session. Where is it? Is it on the first, second, or third floor? And which room, where to go, and so on. So that's yet another purpose. And again, you should have some information about the sessions, the speakers, and maybe some other information that is relevant for you when you attend the conference. And then the final purpose is that it should be a learning tool for the developer community. And that's one of our purposes here. And that's why I've spent a lot of time trying to put in comments and make the code as easy as possible to understand and read, no matter if you have been developing in FileMaker for a year or for 30 years. And of course, you can modify the code as well, but this is kind of a starting point and a place where you can easily learn some of the features that we have used in the app so that you can use it for your own projects. All right. So why an app and why FileMaker? Well, if we're using an app, and we call it an app, even though it's a FileMaker database file that runs inside FileMaker.Go, right? So, so we still call it an app, which is not completely accurate, but the thing here is that it works offline, and this is really one of FileMaker's unique strength compared to the other competitors. Having something that works offline is actually not that easy to do unless you're using FileMaker. And why FileMaker? Well, obviously because it's a FileMaker conference. It's a Claris conference where FileMaker is a very big part of Claris, right? So of course we should use FileMaker, but it's also make perfectly sense because it enables us to do fast development and not the least fast deployment.
Yeah, I just want to interrupt something
Yes.
here about the fast deployment. I found a bug that I caused in FileMaker in Engage2Go late Friday afternoon US time, right before the conference. So like 2 days before I was flying to Austin, and late at night for Claus before he was leaving for Austin early the next morning. And I, let him know about the bug and how embarrassed I was to have caused it. And when he got up Saturday morning and got on the flight, he had internet access during the flight. He was able to fix the bug and then also get the files to me for deployment so that Saturday morning when I got up, I could publish the updated version that wasn't broken.
Yeah. And that just speaks to how fast we can do this in FileMaker, but also the trick I'm going to show you about the in-app update is really how to deploy for offline files, because of course it's easy enough to do a modification on a FileMaker server, but when you need to have the files pushed out to offline apps, that's where this really comes in handy.
All right.
So I don't know, Rosemary.
So we have
Do
some
you
poll
have
results.
yeah, some poll results? Where
Yeah.
should we spend most time?
Yep. Well, so first I just want to share that 3/4 of the audience has deployed an app to production using FileMaker Go. So we
Perfect.
have experienced mobile developers with us today.
Great.
And a few, 5% have done it as a test, and about 20% have not. And overwhelmingly, the feature most people want to hear about is data and app updates. That's about 70%. Oh, and someone's saying I don't see the poll. To see the poll, go to apps, which is the 3 little squares in the lower right of the WebEx window, and open Slido. And then you should be able to get to the poll. But yeah, it's almost 3/4 data and app updates, 20%-ish interactive maps, and then a few for
Localization.
localization.
Right. Okay, perfect.
Oh, and actually we have a general question. And was a web app with offline capabilities considered as an option?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, no. I mean, we did use a web app with that you had to be online for last year, and that had many, many challenges. And yeah, we didn't consider a web app for 2 reasons. One is we want to showcase FileMaker, and we've been using some version of DevCon2Go or Engage2Go using FileMaker Go since Claris released FileMaker Go. I don't even know how long ago, but if you were in the museum, if you were at Engage and came to the museum, Andy Lacates unearthed the original DevCon2Go, and we had it on an iPad running in the Claris Museum at the conference, which was wild to see, just to see how far we've come since then.
I believe
so
it's almost 15 years ago.
Yeah, iterating this for 15 years.
Yep. Rosemary, just in case there might be people who are completely brand new to what DevCon2Go or Engage2Go is, do you want to provide just a quick summary of it?
Yeah, so Engage2Go or DevCon2Go is the mobile app we use to publish the conference schedule to attendees. So if you've gone to a conference, many conferences now have some kind of app. 20 years ago when I started at Claris, we published a physical book with the schedule, and you had to kind of like poke through it. And then over time, we put it on the web. And so then if you were connected and had quasi-reliable Wi-Fi in a hotel 20 years ago, you might be able to find the schedule on the web. But we quickly shifted to using FileMaker once we could, simply because we already were doing all the content management for the event in FileMaker. So we had all the data in FileMaker already. So it's pretty easy to then get the data into the format we need for the mobile app. And you can, as we've shared the link to download in the chat, and Claus will open up the app and we can show what's there. But it's basically a way for conference attendees to see the schedule, choose what sessions they want to attend, learn more about the speakers, and also navigate the space. And then we also have other features just for ease of use. There's a link to download session, like the speakers, slides, and demo files. There's a link to do the session survey, so that if you're in a session, at the end of the session, you just pull up that session in the app, you tap a button, you fill out the 3-question survey, and that helps us improve the conference. And over the years, we also used it, and this is getting away from Claus's note about purpose, but we had random features in DevCon2Go that showcased whatever the new cool tools available in FileMaker Go were, as FileMaker Go was developing quickly in the early years. And this year we went back to basics and took a lot of that excess features that nobody really used out to really hone in on the core purpose, which is helping attendees navigate the conference and get up-to-date information while they were in Austin.
Yeah. All right. Should I continue?
Yep.
All right. So the features we are going to look into is, like I said, the in-app update and data update, which we are going to spend most time on. And then I'm going to talk about the interactive maps, which is, well, it makes perfectly sense here, but this technique is extremely powerful. I have done some other sessions in the past where I've showcased the same technique, but being used in multiplied different places to make your app be so much more cool. And then I'm going to touch on the localization method that is in there. Many of us needs to localize our apps, especially when we are not US based. So there's an updated method in here that I'm just going to touch very briefly on.
All right. And before you go into the code,
Yeah.
There's two questions actually. So first, if the app were to become a real app,
Yeah.
what dev platform would you suggest to compile it seamlessly for both iOS and Android?
I wouldn't suggest anything. The reason is that, we have some guys on our team who is using something. Yeah, that's what happened when you get old, right? You forget stuff, and especially names. It's a platform that is, I can't remember the name of it, but it's where you can build the interface and compile it to all sorts of platforms like Android, iOS, web, Mac, Windows, and so on. And no, it's not live code. Thank you for the suggestion. I totally forgot. And now Andres is probably going to be mad at me for forgetting that. But they are doing stuff where they actually connect to FileMaker server for the intelligent stuff. But you can build it there. I mean, if I should build it, I would stick with FileMaker and FileMaker.Go and do the iOS app SDK. And then, yes, then it's an app for iOS. But that's pretty simple when you don't consider dealing with the Apple approval flow, which is, yeah, something that is not just gonna take a half an hour. The same goes for Google App Store. There's a big flow that you need to go through. So that's not an easy thing. The building the code is almost the smallest part. All the other stuff around it is much more complicated to go through. Yeah.
All right. And
That
there's
was a long answer. Sorry.
That's okay. One other question is about how do I get to full access? And I hope you will demonstrate that when you show the file.
I will.
Yeah, and
Okay.
there's a comment also, dodging the App Store gauntlet is a huge selling point for FileMaker apps.
Okay. Yeah.
It looks like there might be people who are having trouble opening the file. Was there a password for it, or should?
Yeah, we're gonna.
I'm gonna show it.
Okay. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show it. Okay. So,
In-app updates.
in-app updates. Yeah. Okay. So, can we do in-app updates in FileMaker? Right. So, when we're talking about in-app updates, it's really, well, the concept is really that an application consists of a bunch of files. And the in-app updates is basically downloading some of the files and replacing them inside the app, and then you have the in-app update, right? With the FileMaker and with this app, which is a single file, it could be multi-file as well. But considering the nature of this app, there were no reason to go with more than a single file. So basically, we don't have a bunch of files where we can replace the sessions or replace some of the layouts and so on. So we have to replace the entire file. And this is what I call in-app, and I typically quote it when I talk about it because it's really replacing the file altogether. So this technique is extremely simple, but it's so powerful. Of course, there is something we need to take care of, and that is the user data. It has been easy enough to, in this case, to see what is the user data, because that's the schedule, and that's what your which of the sessions you have put on your schedule, and also your custom schedules, right? And there's several ways to accomplish this. So let's dig into how this works, or maybe, well, actually, I would like to just add why this technique is so powerful. Just an example. The last couple of weeks, I've been working hard on a highly customized POS solution for one of our customers. That solution needs to run in-house, and we needed to use a plugin for that. And plugins and FileMaker doesn't work together, but we can use plugins for if they are in a native iOS version. We can do that with the iOS app SDK, which is perfect. So I built the POS system in FileMaker, and then use the plugin and do all the plugin calls, and then compile it into a native iOS app. So in order to get this app out, either on the App Store or doing in an organization distributed via an MDM system, or even do it directly to iPads and so on, you need to have it verified in via Apple and so on. Basically meaning that whenever your app is ready, that version of your app is ready, that build, it has to go through a bunch of steps, which could easily take a couple of days before you could do that, right? And I did that, of course, but when testing, then you discover, hey, there was a bug here. I need to fix that bug. And instead of having to build a completely new native iOS app, even using the app SDK, which makes things simpler, I can just use this technique in order to update the FileMaker file within the iOS app, meaning that in a matter of half an hour, I had updated my app like 10 or 15 times, because I found a bug, I fixed it, and then tested it out, because it was so easy to use this technique for that. So that's another reason for using this technique if you want to do anything that is offline, right? So let's just go into how is the flow here. So first off, at some point we are gonna say, let's check for updates. And in case there is an update available, then we are going to export the user data to the temp folder. And why the temp folder? Because the operating system is so nice to us that it's going to clean up the temp folder, meaning that we don't have to care about the data that sits in the temp folder. It goes away when the app session goes down. So it's already taken care of by the operating system. So we don't have big files sitting there that we don't want anyone to look at, and we don't want them to fill up our device, right? So the next thing is that we have a helper file, and this helper file is going to download the new FileMaker file into a container field in the helper file, and then the helper file is going to close down the original file that sits on your device. And since it's closed now, the helper file is able to overwrite the old file with a new one. And then we open the new file and run the script that will import the user data. So this is kind of the flow that goes in here, right? So let's look into FileMaker. and see how this actually works.
Yeah, so first, can you show how to unlock the app? Just point people
Okay,
to where to do
yes.
that.
Okay, so this is of course unlocked, but in the menu there's a developer tools, and then there is a button here if it's unlocked, if it's locked, and you click on that. There's a dialog that says, here are the credentials, which is admin as username and devcon as password. But there's a button to unlock it here, and of course you can only unlock it on FileMaker Pro, because that's the only product you can use to author the app. So that button doesn't show on your iPad or your iPhone. Okay. Great. Security, Rosemary, if I forget it.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not gonna talk about it right now, but I'm gonna go in here. So wait. Sorry. So the thing is that when you open the app, it will run the script and say, is there an update? Or you can go in here and check for update, right? So there is an app update, okay? And do you want to update? And the reason we are giving people this choice is that maybe you're on a bad connection, maybe you're just about losing connection, so, or you have a very expensive satellite connection or whatever. So we don't want to bother doing the updates unless you really want to do that. So I'm just gonna say no. And then there's also an app, a data update available here. I'm gonna say no again here. So let's just step into this. Oh yeah, maybe we should just do it like this. Oh, wait. This is not, yeah. Okay, wait. Okay. So did I put it? Where did I put it? Here. Okay. Just need to move it away. So check for updates. So let's just step through here and see what is really happening, right? So we go into this script here. I don't know if I can. Yes. Thank you, Christian from MBS, for giving us Zoom here. So here's the debugger. So the first thing we are going to do is to close the card window, just so it's out of the way. Then we're going to ask the server, the update server, is there an update? And we are taking a value from a field here that goes to a web server. And that web server is showing a, I could just give me 2 seconds.
A very small text file.
It will load a very small text file, and I'm just going to show the text file here. Don't know if I can I cannot zoom here, but it has 2 values. The first is app, and then there's the number, and then data and a number. That's all we need in order to see, is there a higher version on the server than what we have already? Okay. So let's go back. So we are basically just doing this into a variable. And then in the variable, we know there's some error checking here, which we can skip through. But basically, I'm going to say, let's take the first value of whatever we got into this app update. And since it is a text file and there's only 2 values in here, there's no extra headline or header or body or tags or anything. So it's right out and say get as number, meaning that we are going to strip the spaces and everything else. So we have the pure number. So that's what we are going to work with here, app version. And we do the same for data version. And as you can see, I've actually put in yeah, I put in here the data updates. Some of the update files, sometimes you have an extra line ending or carriage return. It's sometimes interpreted differently, depending on whether it is in the UTF-8. No, it's not the UTF-8, but it depends on which line endings is being used in the text document. So just in order to, well, the first is always the app, and just in order to account for in case there's an extra line ending, so it will be on line 1 and line 3. I've just accounted for this in this one. It's very low level. Instead of converting line endings and so on, I simply just take value 2 and 3 and just put them next to each other because there's only a value on one of them, right? And then we are navigating to a layout that say, hey, we are in the process of updating. Here's the dialog. In case there is an update, an app version, we show the dialog here. And if you say, yes, I would like to have the updates, the app updates, we are simply going to jump into updating the app. And actually, we are going to skip the data part. And why? Because the newest app version should have the newest data version as well. So we don't need to go through the data update. We can simply just jump to the app update. But in case we are going to say no, or there is no app update available, we are going to look at the data version and say, what is the data version that we have, and what is the data version that we got from the server? And then in case there's an update, we're going to ask, do you want to? No. Or else we're going to do the data update here. Okay. So let's dig into the data update, right? Oh, maybe I should actually step through so we have all the things here. Oh, well, let's just, I see it's jumping, so that's one of the downsides of zooming, apparently. Okay, this is navigation script.
Oh.
So now
I just want to interrupt because a couple of people are trying to run the updates right now on the file that they've just downloaded, and I just want to say, Claris is having some file distribution problems this morning. Our download server, or some of the things related to Engage, disappeared from our download server overnight. I'm in negotiations with our IT team to get everything back up. So, well, updating won't work right now. It should be back online in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, and the reason it's working while I'm showing it is because I'm using my own server to do this. I just discovered just before we started here. But anyway, yes, true. We show the dialog. There's an app update, sure, and yes, we want to. So we go in here to the update. This is the app update part. I just wanna, yes. If you're doing this, you will see a dialog saying, hey, I don't know where this updater file is. Where's the link to that? And that only happens when you step through, and that's because FileMaker wants to make sure that everything in the script is ready for you, so that when you step through the script in the debugger, it will have everything ready for you. But we don't know the location of this updater file, which is the helper file that I was talking about. We don't know the location of that until later on, because right now it's sitting inside the Engage2Go app, and it's not in the right place. So that only happens later on. And I did cheat just like they do in the TV kitchen. So I have it in place, and I have set all the stuff on beforehand, so we don't have this dialogue. Okay, but what happens here is basically we are getting a script parameter in saying what's the update number that we want to use, and this is 124 because that's the newest version, right? And the file name is, let's get the file name, because then in case we are changing the file name, it still works. Or you can just grab it and then it works in your app as well. Of course, you need to do a few modifications, but that part is working. So that's the Engage2Go.fmp12. And where's the update URL? We are taking that from a script, and then we have the update number, and then we know the update number is a folder, and in all the folders, there's the same file. So go into 124, that's a folder, and then we have the file name, and finally, the file path we also have as a value in this update URL. We are doing a list. So the first value is the place to get the new version. And then the second one is the file path to our current Engage2Go app that we have open now, right? Okay, so now we have set these things. We are gonna look at, this is a check for my schedule. And of course, I didn't put any in. Maybe I should have done that. But this is the part that I was talking about where we need to export the user data. And we are basically doing that here into a text file saying this is my schedule text. And put it into a field. Yes, this is a container field. I think that's a container field. And then we are gonna, and the reason there's several ways to do this export. And I know there's at least 2 ways of doing it in the code. So you can jump in and look at what is the nicest way. Some of the tricks here are something that has been in the product for many years, and some are newer. So anyway, so we are basically taking my schedule, which is a list of session IDs, because that's easy enough. That's the sessions that I have marked as sessions I want to attend, or I want to have it on my schedule. So that list is simple because we are just taking a list of IDs of those records, right? And then we are gonna jump to my events, and that's because it's still on the schedule. It's actually in the session table as well, but they have a marking saying this is my events, where I have to put in the start date and time and headline and description and location and so on, right? And what I've done here is that I built and you can't see it right now, but in this set variable events, there's a while loop, which is using, I also noted it here, it's using the plus in JSON set element so that you add just to an array. So it will create a JSON with an array of your events. And in case you're running, well, in case you would like to do it differently, this is an alternative way of doing it. So
Can I just
which
interrupt?
is a sloop.
That may be why, because there are a couple of questions about why is this, why does Engage2Go require FileMaker 21 or FileMaker 2024?
Yeah.
And that JSON set element code was new in the latest version of FileMaker.
It is. And of course, we would like to showcase and use the newest version, the most current version, for many reasons, because we get new features and so on, but also increased security and stability, right? So this is a different way. We are still gonna put my events. That's the custom events. So that's your meetings and so on. We are gonna put it into a text file we are calling myevents.txt. It doesn't really matter, but we know what it is. So when we need to get it back in, then we know which file to look for, right? And note here, I'm using the temporary path, right? So everything goes into the temporary directory, which is not a folder that is easy to get through, especially not on the iOS devices, right? So here is a different way of doing it. No, actually, up here, it was a text file that we are just exporting a text field. That was one way of doing it. This is another way of doing it, where I'm actually putting the content of the file and creating the text file. and putting it into a global container field. So, and there's a little trick here where you do a text encode to UTF-8 and then 2 for the line endings, which I can't remember at hand. You can look it up in the documentation. But that fits with normal UTF-8, so probably Unix style, I guess. And you do a text encode here, so we know the encoding is good. Which is very important when you live in a country like Denmark, who has special characters that you don't have in English and so on. Then you do a base 64 encode, and then you do a base 64 decode on top of that. This looks like, oh man, a lot of functionality. But the result here is that we have a binary file with the file name myevents.txt that we put into the global container field. And then we're going to export the container field into the path. And that was the temporary path with myevents.txt. We don't need to create any folders, so that's off. And then we're just going to clear the global container fields because we don't need it anymore, right? Also, you can write session notes to the session so you can remember, or maybe you can share with your colleagues that is not in the at the conference. With all sessions, you can type in session notes. And here we are gonna look for seeing if there's any sessions that has more than 0, meaning that it's not empty. And if we find some, then we are gonna say, okay, so we know we have something. And then in a set variable, I'm doing an execute SQL call, and that's just yet a third method of doing it. And the reason I'm doing this with 3 different methods is that, if you only have a hammer, then everything is a nail, right? So I wanted to give you both a screwdriver and a hammer and a saw, maybe, right? If you get the picture language. So I'm getting this into a variable. I'm gonna set it into a field, which is this is the same thing. It's a text field, and then we're gonna export the content here. I could actually have even added a different one, which is using the newer script steps to write files, where you write a file, open it, put in content, and close the file again. It's not in here, but at least there's 3 different methods of getting content into variables and creating files that can be exported here. Okay. Hope you're not completely confused. Now we get to the interesting part, which is, let me see, I need to put it in here. Right. Yeah. So here I'm going to set a file path, which is the temporary path, and then update app.fmp12. This is the name of the helper file. The helper file is very small, so it fits into a container field and only increase by a few 100 kilobytes the file, your original file. And that's why this actually works, because there's only a single table and a single field in it. Okay, so what I do here is that I'm gonna export this helper file to the temporary path, because then the operating system will clean it up afterwards. And with the update app here, and then I'm gonna set a $$ variable, which I have named updater, with the file path here. And the reason for this is that now, and you cannot see it here, it says unknown, right? But that's because we're using the debugger. In the external data source, no, we cannot see this right now, but in the external data source, you can set a file path to an external file, link it to that, or you can use a global variable. So since we can use a global variable, we are just going to fill it out here, because the temporary path will change every time that you open a new session, depending on the device and operating system and so on. So you cannot have a specific path to that updater file. So that's why we need to set it here. And that's what I said in the start, where I said normally you would get, if you go into debugger, you will get an alert saying, hey, where is this updater? Because the $updater variable is empty. But now it's filled, so now we can do it. And what I did now was that I called the script in the updater file, right? And the updater file is here. Very late, I discovered that I forgot to replace the logo on this, but normally you never see this. So yeah, it's only when you're debugging you see this. And here's the update file. It has one script, one table, one field, one container field. That's it. Okay. And actually you could say that, yeah, this is not a completely new feature. So I'm gonna set a $dollar variable to and to the value. I'm gonna get the second value. Let's see. Okay, so we have the full update URL. That's the URL that we need to download the new version from. The second value is the full path to the, and I apologize that it's DevCon2Go here. I should have renamed stuff here. I simply forgot because it just worked. But to the Engage2Go app. So that's where your app is sitting. If it's on your device, it sits on the documents folder. If it's on your computer, it could be in your downloads folder, documents folder, desktop, or in a special folder. So that's why we need to know which file is it that we are trying to update, right? So we put it into this one. And since we're using $dollar variable, we are actually using this $dollar variable to use the external file to so that we have a direct link, so we can call a script from this helper file in the app. The same thing as before, and then the update URL, that was the first one. So now we are going to close down the file here, and it's going to say sorry, it's going to say close the file, and that's just the name of the external file. So let me see if that actually works. Wait, where is it? Hey, what happened? Close the file, and it actually works. So we can see here in window, we only have the update app open. There's no other thing open. So now we're going to say insert from URL, and we have the target of the container field of this update app. So that's the single field that exists, and we are using the update URL. So now I'm going to run this, and it took a little bit. That depends on your internet connection and the distance to the update server, and how big the file is, of course. I'm just going to go here, and then I say the path is the DevCon2Go app. Okay, so that's actually not even needed here, but I just like to have the path into a single $dollar variable. So what I'm doing now is that I'm going to export the field content. And what happened here was that this file just got updated, and it fits with my time. It was just under a minute ago I replaced this file, which was what we actually did here. And now, since I have the link to this, I know where it is. I can open the file, and I'm just gonna, because I want to debug it, just gonna enter here. So on first window open will run now. Let's just go through. Oh, wait. Maybe I should just get out of this. Can we get back? Let's see. Okay, so I'm just gonna jump out here. And hey, come on, man. Stuff going on. Now we are back in the update app. Okay, so we open the file hidden. Well, not hidden. And of course, when you open the app, it will run the on first window open, right? So it has to do that, but then we are going to run the perform script here. That's the update, import user data, and it's in the file here, right? So we are going to go into the Engage2Go file that's over here, and we are going to run the script called update import user data after app update. Because now the app is updated, the data within, so meaning the sessions and the speaker and so on, is most likely updated, but now we need to get back the user data that we exported to the temporary path. So let's import, and we are looking for the file here, which is that's the session flags. I call it that because it's a list of IDs of the session records. There we go. I have the file here. Then I'm gonna import it, and it says connection failed, right? And we are putting this into a variable, and if it's not empty, meaning that then we are going to create records or setting the stuff where actually this is looping through the session records and putting in the flag in the right field. But there was no file. We had an error because the file didn't exist. So I'm just going to skip this part. And then goes the same with the my events import here. We get an error because the file doesn't exist. In this case, I didn't prepare that. But in case it did, we have something in $myEvents, and then we are going to go to a layout that I call system layout, which basically has nothing there. So there are no triggers or script triggers or anything that interferes. And then we have a JSON that we just loop through and create records and pass in the information from the JSON there. And of course, yeah, well, not going to go into that. The same goes for the session nodes, where we are going to find the sessions and which exist. So we just need to populate a field with whatever we get from the file that we import, right? And then finally, we want to go to the about layout. Okay, wait, let me just get out of this. Okay, so now we are back at the update app. Okay, we are not completely done with the update process, but let's delete the container content to keep the size down. We don't want to fill up with anything that is not needed, so let's just clear out. So now we are back at this update file is a couple of 100 kilobytes. While we had the new version of the app file in the container field, it was probably around 25 megabytes or something like that. Or it could be even bigger. So while we are updating, yes, we have some extra luggage with us, but let's clean up afterwards. So that's basically the script. Just a few lines of script, basically. And most of it is, as you can see, most of it is actually comments here, right? And we finish up by closing the current file. Bam. And now the file is closed, right? And I actually have the file here. Okay, 690, okay, 700 kilobytes, but that's not much.
All right.
And it only has a single field and the single script there, right? And then we have it updated to 124, and then the data is 264, which is the newest one, so we don't have to do the data update.
So a few things. We are almost out of time.
Oh, yeah.
We went very, very in depth. And so I think there were a couple questions specifically about updating that we were going to come back to. The first one was, how do you manage security if you need to keep whatever data you're syncing, the local data, secure? What would you recommend for security there?
Well, this example is easy because all data in this app is public, right? Well, your custom events is not, but the data doesn't leave your device, and they get flushed out from the temporary path as soon as you close your app, right? But one thing you could do is to apply encryption. We have the encryption features in scripts in calculation in the calculation engine. So you can take the content of the file when you're building the JSON, and then you can apply encryption to that. That's I think it's called field level encryption. It's a calculation function that you can use to encrypt and decrypt the content, and then you need to have a key. So when you do the encryption, then it will be blobberdish when you put it into the temporary path. So in case someone gets hold of that file in your temporary path, they won't get anything from it because the content is encrypted. And it's a pretty strong encryption that is inside FileMaker. In order to decrypt it, you would need to know the encryption key, which you can keep inside your FileMaker app, of course, or handle differently.
Yep, that is a good idea. I have a question also about adding features to a previous version of the app during the conference. And how do you get those features back if you overwrite? So here's my advice. If you change any features, rename the file, because then the update will fail. Since it's doing a comparison of the file name of the file you have open to the file name that you're getting from the update script, you'll get an error on the update. Yep. I ran into this a few times myself because I had multiple versions in my downloads folder. And so if I was working in the one that was Engage2Go -2, the update would fail. Yeah. So, I mean, that's sort of an easy way. And then I just want to say again, thank you everyone for coming. I think we are pretty much out of time, which means we can't dive into the maps.
No. But in case you want to know a little bit more about the maps, I did a session at Engage2Go where I dig into the maps feature. And if you're looking on the internet, you can find some sessions. I did a session at the Engage2 conference in Europe, which you can find on the internet, where I talk specifically about this maps feature. SVG is the technology that is used here. It's extremely powerful, but that's kind of a session on its own.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Claus, for coming. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And I just want to give a quick update before we end. On May 8th, we will, and that registration is open for that. I'm going to have Mark La Rochelle is coming back to do a more advanced JSON session. So this is a follow-up to the back to school JSON basics we did back in September or October. And I'm going to showcase some of the work I did because I learned JSON from that session, some of the things I did, and Mark is going to dive into some more advanced JSON techniques. And then our next session will be 3 weeks later on May 29th because I'm going on vacation for a week in May. And for that session, we don't have registration up yet, but Rick Kallman is going to join me, and we're going to have a conversation about why it is important to stay up to date with FileMaker. So we're going to talk about the value and the considerations of why you want to keep your FileMaker server and clients as up to date as possible. And then in June, I've got a couple things in the works, but we're not ready to announce those yet. But those sessions will be June 12th and I think June 26th. So again, thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks for your feedback. Lots of kudos, Claus, in the comments. Well done presentation, great insights, and good job. So thank you, everyone, and I hope to see you again in 2 weeks. Bye and take care.